is Gianluca Spina, Professor at Engineering at Milan Politechnico University. Gianluca Spina, good to see you. Fiat's boss, Sergio Marchionne, said March was horrible in Italy. Is that to be expected given the financial crisis, or is Fiat actually doing something wrong in its home country?
Well, I think that the situation in Italy was largely to be expected. I mean, not just in Italy, but all across Europe with the big crisis of the sovereign debt. So no surprise that the car market has fallen so strong in Italy.
And is this a particular blip, do you think? Is this just one-off, or is this now a real downward trend we've got in these European countries?
Well, I think that the European market will recover, but not before mid or the end of the next year. So I think that the short-term perspective for all car makers in Europe, not just Fiat, but all car makers in Europe, are really not good in the short term.
Well, how should these...
I don't think that...
I'm sorry to interrupt you. So how should these car companies be responding? Because as Renault's Carlos Ghosn said yesterday, European governments are hardly encouraging restructuring because that will add to the current crisis. So what can these and should these car companies be doing?
Well, basically, I think that there are two things. One is, of course, hard restructuring of the industry. As you have already mentioned before, there is an estimation of an overcapacity 20% in Europe. So either European car makers are able to export massively towards growing markets, but you know it's not that easy to move final products, not just components or subassembly, but cars. I mean, 100,000 cars from one continent to another one. So given that this possibility is clearly constrained, at least in part, I think that a hard restructuring, that is downsizing, closing factory all across Europe, would be mostly inevitable.
Inevitable, but when do you think Europe is going to have to bite that bullet and take that step? Because at the moment, nobody's prepared to do it, really. Well,
what we have seen now are a number of agreements between car makers, but you know, the mere agreements are not downsizing, because in the end you come to the issue of which factory is to be closed, and national governments all across Europe still exert strong pressures to keep the local factories open. Take, for example, France. Nobody is in France before the elections is speaking about this possibility, but clearly even the French car industry is under pressure and should cut jobs and restructure heavily.
I'd like to see a French president do that in an election year. Let's just quickly move on and talk about Chrysler, which is controlled by Fiat in the States. It saw its sales exceed analysts' estimates. What's Fiat and Chrysler doing right in the United States? Is it all about pent-up demand, or actually have they got the right models there?
Well, we see now this paradox, because a few years ago Fiat rescued Chrysler, but basically now the entire group is able to survive just thanks to Chrysler and not to Fiat, or mainly through Chrysler contribution. I think that well, Chrysler clearly could benefit from the Fiat technologies, but not really from the Fiat models. And this is one of the problems of Fiat, the inability or the difficulty to export cars of the Fiat brands in the United States. While Chrysler apparently has the right models, has developed the right models for the American market, also including Fiat technologies, I mean basic technologies inside. Of course, this was a great move seen from the American side, from the Chrysler point of view, and we see the result. A significant growth and a very good performance. But of course, internal demand, the surge of internal demand had played an essential role in
essential part. Yes, indeed. Result. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We do have to leave it there. Gianluca Spina, Professor of Engineering at Milan Politechnico University. We're grateful to you. Thanks for joining us live from Milan today.